I'm going to be comparing Joker 2019 as well as Joker Folie à Deux to Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey as well as Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 2 that came out earlier on this year. I'm pretty sure I've seen both Joker movies. I actually did see both of them in theaters, as a matter of fact. Me and my mom watched the first Joker together, and then recently I watched Joker 2 in theaters with a friend of mine. I have not seen either of the Blood and Honey movies. Now, when I did my video talking about Tom and Jerry versus Winnie the Pooh, I could have included Blood and Honey as part of the Winnie the Pooh franchise, but I decided before recording that video, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to drag down the Winnie the Pooh franchise, especially considering that these two movies seem to me to be pretty detached from actual classic Winnie the Pooh. It just feels like these two movies are so different that do I really want to include them with the other Winnie the Pooh movies, both Christopher Robin as well as the shorter animated movies? No, I didn't want to do that. With Joker, I decided, you know what, I actually want to talk about Joker films separately from the Batman movies. Now, when it comes to the highest score for each franchise, in the case of Joker, the first film only has a 68%. And then we look at Blood and Honey, the latest movie only has a 46%. When you look at lowest score for each franchise, Joker Folie à Deux, man, only has a 32%. That's a big drop off from the first film. The first Blood and Honey only has a 3%. Yikes. When you look at average score for each franchise, Joker has an average of 50. Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey has an average of 24. When you look at gap between lowest and highest score with Joker, you're talking about a gap of 36. With Blood and Honey, you're talking about a gap of 43. Joker wins again. So it's won every round so far, and this one is actually not hard for me whatsoever. I would easily say I prefer Joker. Now, I think that Joker Folie à Deux is a movie that has merit to it. I think that on a visual, technical level, there's a craft on display, especially when you get the IMAX scenes. They look really good. I think that Joaquin Phoenix gives a good performance as Arthur Fleck. Lady Gaga did a good job. I respect Todd Phillips for being so brave that he is totally fine with stepping on people's toes. He is totally fine with making people angry, and he is also totally fine with putting on a movie that would make the studio mad at him. And to be honest, considering the fact that Joker 2 underperformed at the box office, has a critic and audience score on Rotten Tomatoes that's in the 30s. It became the first comic book movie in history to ever get a D cinema score, which is really bad. If you think about it, A24 horror films will get a D cinema score, but comic book movies usually get some kind of an A minus, A plus, or an A. Before Joker 2, you only had a few comic book movies that got a B cinema score. That's already bad. I mean, when Flash came out last year and got a B cinema score, it was like, ooh, yikes, that is not good. What's going on with this movie? And then Joker 2 came out recently. D cinema score, that's really bad. So I would not be surprised whatsoever, considering how much money Joker 2 lost for the studio. They are having conversations with Todd Phillips, or at least they want to have a talk with him and say, hey, what were you thinking? This backfired so horribly. Also, man, Todd Phillips clearly knew what he wanted and he did not back down whatsoever. You got to admire that. Todd Phillips just stuck to, yeah, I'm going to do a musical and courtroom drama as a follow up to a somber, heavy, and tragic character study like Joker 2019, even though musical and courtroom drama is not in any way the obvious direction you'd go in for a follow up to Joker 2019. It's not in any way the first thing that comes to your mind. One of the big problems here is that Joker 2019 did not naturally set up a sequel. It did not end in a way that left plot threads dangling. It did not end in a way that teased the follow up. And then you get, for Joker 2, two different genres that have never made $1 billion. If you think about it, the only musicals that have ever made $1 billion are Disney produced animated movies or live action remakes. Frozen 2 and Lion King are the only two musicals that have ever made $1 billion. Those are Disney produced movies for the broadest possible audience. That's not what Joker is. And then no courtroom drama has ever made $1 billion. The highest grossing courtroom drama of all time is A Few Good Men that came out decades ago when people's viewing habits were very different than they are now. The highest grossing mature musical of all time is Bohemian Rhapsody, and that did not come close to making $1 billion. So, it was not very smart on Todd Phillips' part. As much as I can respect Joker 2, I can't say that I enjoyed the movie all that much. It feels to me like a very extended epilogue to the first film. Doesn't feel like it really moved the story forward. It's more just looking backwards. Characters reacting to the events of the first film or recapping the first film. And the way it ends didn't really leave me very satisfied. It ended things in a way that made me go, wait, why did we do any of this? What was the point of any of this? It was very weird, to be honest. It felt like Joker 2 just undid the first film. It feels like a movie that's actively antagonistic toward its own audience, which is very weird. I think Joker 2019 is a movie with a lot of artistic merit to it. It's a very interesting movie that stands out in the comic book genre because it's not a big spectacle. It's not about a villain trying to blow up the city. It's a somber and heavy movie that's a drama, a character study, a tragedy, influenced by Martin Scorsese films like Taxi Driver and King of Comedy. So, in a genre that's oversaturated, Joker really stands out. As much as I think Joker 2 is a step down from the first film, the Joker franchise overall, I think, has more artistic merit to it than Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey. Sure, it seems like the second film was an improvement, but not all that much of an improvement. And man, that first film is one of the most cynical moves I've ever seen in recent times. And think about this for a minute. Clearly, the people who made the first film realized, oh, hey, the characters in Winnie the Pooh are now part of the public domain, so we can use them. Thus, these people just took 5 minutes in order to use public domain and copyright laws so that they could use Winnie the Pooh in order to slap that IP onto their generic, terrible slasher. That first movie has nothing to do with Winnie the Pooh. The filmmakers just realized they could exploit public domain and copyright to slap very shallow and superficial Winnie the Pooh skin onto their generic slasher. And what's worse is that despite how low budget the first movie is, it's only $100,000 generic terrible slasher, they chose to make this a FanFilm event where they charged up to $20 for a ticket. Up to $20. And people were naturally mad when they saw the movie are like, really? You charge that much for this movie? And the filmmakers couldn't even take their win. They made money off the first film. That should have been it right there. But for some reason, they couldn't accept their win. So they legitimately got mad at people who rightfully criticized them for the movie they put out. What are you guys thinking? Man. That'll wrap things up for this video.